week after turning 19 and 2 weeks before Christmas, I was in a near-fatal accident. If I hadn't gone to the emergency room when I did, I would have been dead within 3 hours. This is why I got my first tattoo. I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. My father had been raised Mormon, my mother Lutheran. Neither was active in their churches, so they decided to baptize me Catholic. Seemed like a logical choice. At least one of us was going to get into heaven. We were the portrait of an all-American family.
Utah's a really bizarre place where people either seem to be almost offended or everyone has tattoos.
It's different being tattooed here than it would be, I think, in most other places.
Anywhere you have a very strong viewpoint from one culture, you're going to have the counterculture that's going to have that strong view too. And I think there's definitely a strong presence of tattoos and kind of a local culture about that.
Salt Lake really surprised me. I moved here from northern Arizona. I used to live in Flagstaff. And Flagstaff is an extraordinarily liberal little outpost in, the land of McCain. And this is probably about the most tattooed place I've ever seen. It's really extraordinary. I've never seen so much work here. There's a tattoo parlor on every single block. The Salt Lake City Tattoo Convention is one of the largest ones I think I've ever experienced. Never have I seen so much acceptance of tattooing and body art, and it's really quite unexpected.
Even in the South, even in the Bible Belt, I still never felt as uncomfortable with my tattoos as I do in Salt Lake. It is the most uncomfortable I have felt. Even living in the suburbs of Atlanta, in the dirty, dirty South, in Georgia, where it is Baptist country, I still went to a Baptist church with my tattoos showing, and no one gave me as many dirty looks as they do at a Cafe Rio in Salt Lake City.
Being in a community in Salt Lake, in that Mormon dominant place where you're kind of ostracized in general, because if you're not Mormon, you don't really fit what that bubble that they kind of live in.
The LDS community doesn't look very highly on tattoos, so when they see a lot of them, they tend to give you funny looks.
Some people have them and then they join the church. They got them before they join the church. Some people go inactive and get them and come back active again. And I don't know, there might be some active members out there that get them too.
Tattoo culture in other states that's not Salt Lake, in the few that I have lived in, is very different.
I went into a grocery store and I actually saw parents pulling their kids away from me. And at that point in time, I was working with Lifelight. I was medically transporting medically fragile kids. And I couldn't help but thinking to myself, if you guys only knew, I'm probably the safest guy in the store to have your kids around. But then when you go into larger cities, tattoos, in my opinion, now are not as nearly faux pas as they were 10, 15 years ago.
When I lived in Dallas, it was not the same thing at all. I was almost always the most tattooed person.
Here, with full sleeves, and as we walk around, it's more common than I've seen anywhere else.
And the problem is that it's not this state. People just assume that San Francisco or LA, that is California. California is a very conservative state.
My poor, sweet, conservative Mormon father, the super trendy stars that I got on my back, he asked me if there was a way that he could go back over it somehow and undo it.
The church's stance is that your body is a temple and you shouldn't deface it. And so you shouldn't do anything that permanently defaces it or causes damage.
Something told me this was a turning point for me. After the accident, I decided to get 2 tattoos. One, a blue star to represent the person I was. The other, a red star for the person I would someday become. I wanted a permanent reminder that sometimes the bad can lead to good. But what drives other people? Why do they get tattooed?
What made me start getting tattooed would probably, I think it's just kind of the counterculture lifestyle. Going to concerts and skateboarding and, I don't know, some rock and roll lifestyle that you're kind of raised in, punk rock culture. You just, maybe a sense of community, or their little notations of your life, or like kind of like collect charm bracelets. It's the same sort of situation, I think.
The very first one I got on my back was actually a peer pressure tattoo. My boyfriend and his brother were getting tattooed, and they were like, just get one, and I finally just picked something and got it.
I try to make my tattoos be something that I really liked for a long time. So the elephant, I really wanted this tattoo for years. Like, I knew it was the one I was saving up for, that's the one I wanted. And so now that's been like my little thing. Like, instead of just getting tattoos all the time when something pops in my head, because who knows what's gonna pop in my head, now I try to be like, okay, you've wanted that tattoo for a couple years now. I think this is safe to permanently put on your body and die with.
Mine are very unique to my personality and my story, and when anybody sees them, they see a story. They don't just see something that was on a wall that I got put on my body.
I got my first tattoo at 17, and my mom kind of laughed and said, yeah, it was coming. My parents both. My father's got tattoos down both arms, and my mom's got a rose right across her chest. Looks really great. And I was kind of raised on the back of a Harley when I was a kid. So I never saw it as really aberrant behavior for that reason,
I can show you every one of my tattoos and I have a story about it. My entire arm is devoted to my mom, who died when I was young, and it's my memorandum to her. So all my tattoos, good or bad, all have stories and all have memories.
My first tattoo when I was 24, my mom had passed away a few months earlier, so I have her initials between my shoulder blades. I have a portrait of her on my right shoulder. All of the tattoos on my left sleeve are of places I've lived, and then I have a memorial for my stepmother who passed away when I was 17.
It was for a friend that had passed away, and it took a couple years to put together what I wanted and where I was gonna get it, and so finally got it together and started tattooing. And of course the conversation with the tattoo artist, is in reference to why you're getting this tattoo. And so it was kind of a sensitive event, and then topped with the pain of my armpit and my ribs. It just wasn't anything I wanted to experience again. I was like, nope, I got what I needed out of that.
And the ones on my legs are actually covering self-harm scars. So I have Hellboy because I believe that he represents that no matter what people think when they see you, you can do whatever you choose to do, because he looks like a terrible, terrifying demon and he saves humans.
And my dad actually signed for my first tattoo when I was 17. And then my dad put down the stipulation of, well, if you get another tattoo while you're living in the house, you're out of the house. Well, 1 led to 2, led to 3, led to 4. So my senior year of high school, I lived on my own. Needless to say, my dad said, you broke the rules and it's time for you to move out. So I moved out when I was 17 due to tattoos.
Tattoos have been a major staple of mainstream culture for a reasonably short period of time. From the world of reality TV shows to mainstream media to athletes and celebrities, tattoo culture has become everyday culture, and it only seems to be growing. But where did it start, and why?
It turns out it's one of the oldest art forms that we have. Otzi the Iceman is a great example. Otzi the Ice Mummy is 5,200 years old, found on a glacier in Austria. Extensive tattooing all over his body, looks like it was medicinal in nature. There's Princess Yukok, so the Siberian Ice Maiden, about 2,500 years old, has extensive tattooing all over her body, a lot of more sort of socially ritualistic things. There's images of Capricorn, images of sacred fish, really exquisitely preserved. It looks like it was done, last week. The word tattoo, or tatau, comes originally from the Polynesian region. And so the Maori, for example, in New Zealand, classically have just this extraordinary tattooing that usually covers like half or all their face, goes all over their body. It's called tamoko. It signifies their tribe, it signifies events in their life. It is extremely symbolic of things that anchor them to their place in the landscape and their place in the social hierarchy. High Japanese culture in recent past, some of their tattoo artists and the work of these tattoo artists was just so highly celebrated and prized that when folks would pass away, they would actually donate their skins to have them curated and hung, and there are places in Japan where you can go and see them. And I think having that kind of comfort with A, death, and B, a tattoo culture together in such a phenomenon like that is just extraordinary.
I've been associated with a lot of different groups throughout my life. Skaters, goths, straight edgers, greasers, bikers, students, musicians, filmmakers. I've had lots of groups that I identify with and find solace in, but I've never felt comfortable enough to stay in a single group for any discernible amount of time. I've always jumped from tribe to tribe, but what other tribes do people call their own?
My tribe are my friends.
I don't feel like I've ever been like a specific tribe. I'm kind of like a tribe nomad where I'm going everywhere. One day I'm doing PTA, the next day I'm at some punk show.
I definitely belong to the geek tribe, as well as the LGBTQ and the crazy cat people tribe. Probably mostly the geek tribe, because like the LGBTQ community, they are generally more accepting.
I feel really close to my Pacific Islander heritage. I mean, it's a part of me that I love very, very deeply, and continually fascinated by stories and traditions, and learning more and more about the culture all the time. It's something that that's very, very dear to me.
I think that my tribe is a bunch of people who are just trying to make the world a better, more beautiful place, and they do it by being a lot nicer to people than they're necessarily treated, and they do it on the fringes of society.
Over 10 years, I have not lived with any family members, sibling, cousin of any kind, within a driving distance less than 8 hours.
For me, my tribe is my family. It really is my family, and telling the story about my family.
When I talk about my kids, they're my tribe. And that's the word I use for it. When my kids and I go out to eat, if I'll say me and my tribe are going, to eat or whatever. So I'm a single mother, and I'm very much a mother bear.
As a result, I am raising kids who have really very little biases and who are super heartbroken when they see them.
Society is a melting pot of all kinds of unique individuals. Some people just can't help but stand out from the crowd. For as long as modern society has existed, people look at tattoos as a way of labeling them from us. But in the modern world, how does society as a whole look at tattooed people? And how do they look back?
I'm a normal dude. I work a typical job that people have been seeing for generations, and I'm not a bad guy. Just happen to have some colorful stuff on my body, and so, in that regard, I think the general acceptance is increasing, but it definitely still needs more, and that asking someone about what they've got and what it is actually a good point. I think that's something that I'd like to talk to more people. Look, there's a reason that I chose to go through physical pain and time and money and all of those things for this.
Still seen as a sort of an alternative lifestyle choice. But On the other hand, if you were to ask me to point a finger toward mainstream American culture, I wouldn't be able to find it.
I think that's the beauty about body piercing. I think that's the beauty about scarification and about tattooing and all of that is everybody, all different types of people have that. Judges, police officers, surgeons, teachers, your 7-Eleven worker, your McDonald's worker, all types, all sizes, all ages, all races, men, women, all. They have them.
In a time of distress and panic, people didn't even notice what the hell I looked like. And as time went by, they realized I was tattooed and actually related with me more than judged me. They saw somebody who was a lot more approachable as opposed to lab coats and stethoscopes and suits and ties. You know, they just can't relate with that.
If I was dying and coding on a table, I don't care if my heart surgeon had tattoos and piercings all over him. I would like to live.
Just because we have tattoos doesn't mean we're not adults in any way, or that we're not responsible or good people.
I never really quite fit in. And so I think getting ink done and getting tattoos, it's kind of an extension, I guess, of those feelings. It expresses my individuality. It allows me to express myself in the way that I want.
You know, there's people like me and everybody else that have tattoos that don't necessarily fall into the stereotype.
I know that sometimes older people will look down on me, but then I can speak eloquently, and when I hold the door open for them and they find out that I'm polite, they realize that, oh, maybe they're not so bad and you aren't a criminal if you have tattoos.
We have a fairly active gang population, and so I use it actually as a way to kind of breach subjects with students that maybe wouldn't talk to teachers a lot. And so for me, within the students that I have that are very kind of anti-education and anti-authority figure, it's more of a means of me kind of like building a relationship, which has gotten a lot of those kids that aren't doing anything for any other teachers to at least be trying in my classroom and working. So
I moved here from Seattle and had mohawk, different things. So I've always been looked at different. I've always got the stares. I've always got the shuns or the pulling the kid away from looking. So for me, when it happened, when I got tattoos, it really wasn't that big of a deal. People that know me know who I am. So they weren't surprised when I got tattoos. So I really don't care. If people ask, I'll definitely educate.
My mom, when I first told her I got tattooed, she asked me if I was in a gang. Are you drinking a lot? Are you starting to do drugs? And it's like, what are you talking about? My mom has prison tattoos, so she assumed, because of her experience with it, that I was getting tattoos because I was now becoming a bad person, even though I wouldn't consider my mom a bad person.
Society is changing their view on tattoos. And I think it's not anything that anyone's doing consciously. I just don't think they have a choice. So many people have tattoos.
When I started getting tattooed, I had as much bias as anyone. I knew that even if I did cover myself from head to toe in tattoos, I'd essentially be okay. I happen to be born a white male in the economic middle class. What's it like for women that have decided to become heavily tattooed? And one day, if I decide to have kids, how will I be viewed then?
Women definitely get judged more for it, I think.
It's this girl-on-girl crime. I mean, plenty of girls that don't think girls are pretty when they have tattoos. You know, I wouldn't do that to my body. You know, I'm like, well, you carried a child for 9 months and put stretch marks on your body. I don't want to have a child, and I don't want the stretch marks on my body.
Engineering is traditionally a white male-dominated society, and they're very closed off, and there's only 2 women who work full-time in the company, including myself. So even within the company I work for, I'm still a minority because of my gender. But I think more and more women are getting tattooed now, and it's more acceptable.
People expect women to look a certain way, and ladies don't have tattoos, and ladies don't have short hair, and ladies don't have holes in their face with metal in them. And I definitely think that, especially if you don't have quote unquote feminine tattoos, I definitely think that you get looked at differently. A sorority girl who has a butterfly on her back and think, oh, whatever, but then you'll see someone like me with thigh pieces.
The tramp stamp across the lower back, if a girl has a nice physique and a good tattoo there, I find it attractive, but for the most part, I don't find them attractive.
I've known a couple of women actually who had to get mastectomies after battles with breast cancer and ended up getting tattoos, you know, to commemorate their battle and to have something that they can, you know, kind of be proud and show off, and it makes them feel very, very victorious, a lot stronger, you know, and they get a lot more sort of positive attention, and it really helps.
You don't want your children around a woman that has tattoos, or she couldn't be a good enough mother because she has tattoos. What are people gonna think when she goes to take her child to a play date because she has tattoos? You know, do you really want your child to be seen with that child's mother because she has tattoos?
Especially girls that have like skulls and stuff all down their arm. It's just not feminine to me at all, and I kind of see it as a turn off.
I don't feel like people see the tattoos at all. They see a family now. I don't feel daggers being pierced into the back of my head from people staring at me. I do remember years ago I was engaged to a girl, and she saw a guy walking down the street, and he had more tattoos than I did at the time. And he was holding his little girl's hand, and she nudges me, and she looks over and she's like, oh my God, look at him. And she was never a big fan of tattoos. And I asked her, I'm like, well, what do you want me to look at? And she's like, look at that. And I, look at what? And she was more concerned with the way the father looked, and all I saw was a loving family.
Probably the biggest obstacle for being a parent that's tattooed and having children are the looks that you get from people that feel sorry for your child. They're like, oh my gosh, I feel sorry for that child. Look at his mom and dad are tattooed.
I have never once in my parental experience felt that my kids have been judged by the way that I look, or that I've been judged as a parent because of the way that I look. Actually, for the last few years, I've been really heavily involved with the Girl Scouts. I was a Girl Scout dad. I was doing troop meetings, and last year I taught the Girl Scouts how to swing a machete.
Our children are really good friends, or want to be friends, and those parents make assumptions about you, and like even if I'm covered at work and they don't know me, and they look at my husband and they think, oh, I don't know about that dad, he has tattoos, he probably drinks and does drugs. And
the kids know I have tattoos. Sometimes say we're at the public pool and we walk out and we're in the middle of suburbia, and you walk out in a Speedo or something, and it's like, who is this dude getting in the pool with a lot of tattoo work? And so sometimes maybe you see some of the soccer moms kind of rein their kids in a little bit, like, hey, it's safer on this side of the pool.
My grandma does not know that I have tattoos. I think she would probably drop dead of a heart attack if she knew that I had them, because she does belong in that stereotype where it's hardened men getting tattoos. It is easier for me to not let her know than to try to explain why I have them.
My dad, he grew up Irish Catholic and had joined the military and stuff before he met my mom, and he had a big paratrooper tattoo on his arm, and he got old and it was all wrinkly and kind of weird looking.
My daughter, my 12-year-old daughter is an artist. She's constantly drawing and sketching, and she really wants to grow up to be a tattoo artist. She may change her mind like 100 times, but in the case that she does want to pursue becoming a tattoo artist, then I've told her that I'll save my back clean so that her first tattoos, as she's learning, she can have my whole back. And that's my gift to her.
Our second son is a type 1 diabetic, and he's been diagnosed for 1.5 years. And I have a friend whose son is a type 1 diabetic, and he's in his early 20s, and he has his medical alert stuff as a tattoo, which I love. So I tried to get my 10-year-old to get a tattoo the other day, but he wants to wait.
I would actually like him to be tattooed, The only thing is we don't know if he wants to be tattooed, and I don't want to force him. So I would rather wait until he's 18, and then if he chooses, then get him one. But that's something that could save his life, so.
Everyone is doing something to their body to make it their own, and I don't understand the judgment for anybody being able to make that decision.
I would much rather have my child get tattooed or get pierced rather than do drugs or do something, get involved in crime.
A wise person once said, "The image is already there, I just make it permanent." I've never known anything to be more true. I was born with a blank slate, and over time, it got brought to the surface. I am not my tattoos, and they don't define me. I have had a lot of labels over my life, gone by a lot of names, and been embraced by a lot of tribes. But in the end, I always keep moving. I guess I am still looking, still finding my tribe.
I'm finding my tribe.
I am 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 defining my tribe.
I am finding my tribe.
We are finding our tribe.
I am finding my tribe.
I am finding my tribe.
I'm still finding my tribe.
I am finding my tribe.
I am finding my tribe.
I am finding my tribe.
I'm finding my tribe.
I am finding my tribe. Did you do that?
Now comes the craze of tattooing one's body. I cannot understand why any young man or young woman, for that matter, would wish to undergo the painful process of disfiguring the skin with various multicolored representations of people, animals, and various symbols. With tattoos, the process is permanent, unless there's another painful and costly undertaking to remove it. Fathers, caution your sons against having their bodies tattooed. They may resist your talk now, but the time will come when they will thank you. A tattoo is graffiti on the temple of the body. Likewise, the piercing of the body from multiple rings in the ears, in the nose, even in the tongue. Can they possibly think that is beautiful? The First Presidency and Quorum of the 12 have declared that we discourage tattoos and also the piercing of the body for other than medical purposes. We do not, however, take any position on the minimal piercing of the ears by women for one pair of earrings.